of the Bedlogs. This is a 10/4 piece of slab sawn white oak. They didn't have quarter sawn in 10/4, but got it from Abernathy Sticks. It's 9 feet 1 inches long, and it's a little over 5.5 inches wide. And the hard part is turning the thing over. A little more than 1.5 inches. It's also a little bit cupped. I don't know if you can see that or not. Down at the end. So I have to, since I don't really have a lot of extra, I'm concerned about snipe. Although snipe wasn't really a problem. I have to check, but I either am going to cut off an end piece here, and I need 2 pieces that are just over 47 inches long for the Bedlogs by 4 inches, and the next one I have to check if it's 2 1/4 or 2 1/2. But anyway, so we're going to plane this to start, run it through the DeWalt 735, which I used yesterday and did a great job. And now the other thing that's a problem with this is that if sorry about that. Let's not confuse things with numbers. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a bow in it, so I've got to figure out how to deal with that. I'll let you know in a future video. I've got plenty of wood, but I definitely need to take that out before I go forward. But anyway, it's a massive piece of wood. So here's the setup. Got some stands I'm gonna roll onto. This thing is really heavy. All right, here we go. Well, after a bunch of soul searching and pondering, I cut these Bedlogs finally, and that's the good side. Fortunately, the kickback I got, which cracked some of the edge here, because my sawhorses are pieces of crap, and I was pinching the blade as I was finishing. Put a nice big. Anyway, that piece is going to get rounded off. This is the bad side, so that's going to get rounded off as well. The flat side is the underside here, and the underside and this side here. That's going to be the top of the Bedlog, and this is just the piece on the end, which I should have picked a different board, because this one has this piece of junk in it, and I didn't catch that until it was already mine. It was just barely enough thickness. But anyway, so now they're cut. I have to figure out how to straighten them, and That's probably going to be on the table saw. But also, this was the only piece of 10 quarters I could get easily. If I had ordered a piece of quarter sawn 10 quarters, it would have probably cost me twice as much. So I'm hoping I can get by with this. The pith is right here. So it may cup in time. We'll see. We'll see what happens to it. It's quite a mess in here. You notice all the sawdust and scrap lumber under there, and mountains of sawdust out here and all over the boat and all over the lumber. Tomorrow is going to be a day of rest and cleaning. So, or as my grandmother would say, I'm going to give it a lick and a promise. This thing I'm going to show you, this shows the pith really well. So it's somewhere right there. And this is a piece of heartwood. But I'll say one thing about this wood. Let's see if I can pick it up on camera. Stuff's like rock. It really is like rock. I don't know how I'm going to put brass screws into this stuff. Very carefully. That is for certain. Point of personal preference, I'm going to do a Colombo. Just got one more question. Here's just one more comment. I was originally going to cut off about half of that block there and push it through ahead of this, and I really should have. I'm going to be okay, but I have really significant snipe, and you can't see it, but you can really feel it, and that's why this is the bad side, and this is the good side, because there's hardly anything. There's a little tiny bit, but it's nothing of significance. Bottom line, really you got to be careful of snipe. And part of the problem is this thing weighs so much. I mean, I was reluctant. I probably should have cut these down. But then, if you got a long board, you keep it long and you get the snipe on the ends. My problem is I needed to go all the way to this end. So I should have cut part of that off, that piece I just showed, push that through first every time I push this through, and then the snipe on this end would be picked up by that front piece, and then the remainder that was still on the end of this board, down somewhere on this board, would get the snipe on it, and then I just lop it off after I finish doing the planing. So you really do have to worry about this. I mean, it's a nice planer, but and I think part of it, with the thinner wood I was just using, it wasn't a problem because it wasn't. I mean, this weighs. I have no idea what this weighs. It's really heavy, whatever it is. I'll have to. I don't trust my scale for this, but I'll probably weigh all this stuff at some point. But anyway, bottom line: beware of snipe. Go snipe hunting. So these are the bedlogs. They're still like 5 3/4 by 2 1/2, so they need to be cut down. Problem is, this edge is straight, it's straight, and then it drifts off, and it drifts off. So before I can even put it through a table saw to get it straightened out, which is what the plan is, I've got to trim that off. If I put the straight edge on, it doesn't seem to have it. So this one, on the other hand, has got a nice bow. On this side, right here, it bows out like crazy. So, so that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to trim this in the bandsaw very carefully, and I'll probably end up with the bump here, and then I'll sand that out, get it as straight as possible, push it through the table saw. And then this one I think is okay to push through the table saw right now. I'm probably just going to do a trim. But one of the things that I definitely want to do, it's sort of hard to see. I'd hope to center the pith in these two things, but I'm not sure these boards are going to allow that. And you can't see over here, but we'll do what we can. I think I would have gone with quarter saw next time, but we're here now. Well, before I do anything, I need to think about which way this is going to cup, if it does. I mean, it's so thick, it shouldn't cup much. Famous last words. It's probably going to cup on this surface. The rings are going to try to straighten out. But this is kiln dried already. So I think this is about as stable as we're going to get. Anyway, more later. So I tried this with the fence, and it immediately started drifting off. Oh, this unplugged. You see the edge right there, and I just had to stop. So I did it freehand, and I think I've got enough to trim off an end anyway. So that'll be the end I trim, obviously. Well, yeah, we'll see. Anyway, so I did it freehand and trimmed this little bitty piece. And when it popped out at the end, I was able to very, very carefully just hold it against the line, and it just took my time, and it really worked really well. Now I got to check to see how this looks on a ruler. You can see some bumps in it, but it's going to be, I mean, that's quite a big chunk. That's going to keep that from being straight. So this edge is probably close enough to being straight, so I can put this side through the table saw. Well, besides this yucky notch right here, which I should be able to work around, I've got to trim off some pieces. As a matter of fact, I got to trim off a bunch from this end if I want to keep the pith as centered as much as possible. So I'll probably just do a skim cut off this side, which you can see there's a nice bow in that. There's flush, and there's flush, and I got a nice bow. So whereas if we come over here, yeah, that's nice and straight now. And this side, I get a similar issue right here. It's a little bit of a divot. You get a little bit of a bump right here, but I don't think I want to start fiddling with it. I think I'll just try my luck. I'm going to hit this with 80 grit sandpaper. But again, this side is got a nice little bow in it. When it was a single piece, it was out of the ballpark. Okay, so I've used my friendly neighborhood DeWalt sander, a little orbital quarter sheet sander, and it works really well when I hook it up to a vacuum cleaner. It's got these holes, and you punch holes. I think I've talked about that before. Anyway, so this is you can still see the saw marks from the factory. I took this down a little bit further. There was a little hump here, so it's pretty flat. And then this is the one this is the piece this is the one I sawed. So I sawed this section right here. There's that gouge that I'm gonna have to make sure I get rid of. But anyway, so it's It's a lot smoother. Took all the high stuff off, and it just should push through the. So I'll put this against the fence, and this is nice and flat. So I got distracted and goofed up. That was the smooth section on there, but I had this against the fence and this down. So oh no, I want this up because this is a good face. So I flipped it over and put this on the outside and probably cut it off. So then I had to remark this, which had, this is the side that has the bow. This is the side that has the bow in it. And I quickly, with a table saw, transfer that bow to this side. Realized my mistake. Had to remark this and then cut it off. And now I've got this little bit to sand down, and I'll try it again. So there's the second one. This piece is a little bit wider than the first one. This is, and that's because I screwed up and had to redo the straightening cut. This one's 4 3/4, and this guy should be 5 exactly. But this is really beautiful wood, I gotta say. Even slab sawn, it's really spectacular. So I want to cut off as much of this as possible. I don't think it's new wood, what the hell. Anyway, but I'm going to try to remove as much of this as possible. So I cut it large, and I did that on purpose because I want to think about this before I do this. I've had enough screw-ups today that I think I will just declare victory and stop. So let's see, I've milled both these things down to 2.5 by, or just under 2.5 by just slightly over 4 inches. The saw really struggled with this stuff. I even tried doing it cutting part of the way and then raising it up again. It didn't help. So I'm not sure what's going on. I'm gonna have to fiddle with the saw. But anyway, I've gotten through this part, which is what I needed to do. As I said, you've got some gouges in there. You can see them. But I'm gonna take some 80 grit sandpaper to the edges. The pith on this one's about here, somewhere around here, and on this one it's off to the side, but I was able to center it somewhat, and I think on the other side I can't see one of the sides because it's still painted, but the other one is, somewhere over here. I think this probably is fairly well centered. But so here's the inside of the other bed log. I don't know which is port or starboard yet, but also I scuffed the surfaces with 80 grit sandpaper for the top and the sides, and knocked down the corners so they don't. Every time I pick this stuff up, I feel like I gotta wear gloves. As a matter of fact, I often do wear gloves. A mouthful of blood thinners every day will make you carry Band-Aids and look out for sharp wood. This still a few little nicks here, but it doesn't really matter. And then this is the other side where excuse me, I have a little chatter here and there. I still have a saw mark there. But this is the outside. This is the part that's going to remain in the boat. Here's the part that's going to be against the centerboard. And so there'll be a notch. These are now officially ready to be notched and have the pattern cut. Again, this is the top, and I've made the decision to put the pith down, and then when I use the slab sawn, I'm here to formally complain about Bedlogs being a complete pain in the butt. So I thought I'd gone through this great exercise of straightening these. They're not quite square, which I'm not so worried about. They're flat. I'm going to have to surface this is the outside face. Oh no, sorry, this is the inside face. And the one on the right, if I can do this easily, the one on the right is straight. The one on the left is not. I'm going to cut the groove with a track saw. So this inside edge, which is going to be, I think I've decided on 7/8 of an inch, and I'll have the trunk be an 1/8 of an inch too tall. I don't have to remember that when I make the molds. But now when I come in on this face with a track saw, I can't just lay the track flat on here. I'm going to have to support it in the center so that it rides high on the ends. Getting these things right is really difficult. Anyway, the other thing is, so I'm reading online. So I'm going to cut off most of the stuff near the pith here, but I'm going to be back into the pith along the edge here, and I'm only going to cut off a small amount here. I am very much concerned about this cupping. The aspect ratio of these is so large that, or small rather, that it probably is not going to be an issue. However, today is Sunday, tomorrow's Monday. I'm going to be pricing quarter sawn, 10-quarter, 4+ inches wide and 8+ feet long, and depending on, so this will at least, processing these will at least give me an idea of how to do this. And if they don't turn out, or if I want to change them, I will change them, and I'll have more experience doing this. So again, to finalize this, finally, the notch is going to be cut out with a track saw. And then once that's done, and I have this piece here, I'm going to cut this on the bandsaw, and I don't have anything here, so I'm just going to cut this piece out and cut that piece out, and then plain sand smooth to this line. I'll transcribe this line onto the other side as well, and work to that set of lines. Do that for both of these. Declare victory and stop. We need to move on, but I tell you, these are non-trivial. Yeah, the other people I've seen do this have either glued, epoxied together pieces of white oak, which is, unless you use G-Flex epoxy, is sort of a iffy kind of a thing. And the other thing, other people have been doing it out of green wood, and one looked quarter sawn and the other slab sawn, and so the problem is once this thing is so integral to the boat that if you have a problem with it in the future, it's just a nightmare. Once this gets in here, you're hosed. And when you read something about someone putting one of these things together and they say, "Oh, I never got it to stop leaking," that's a bothersome thought. Anyway, so we will proceed. Hopefully, one of these days we'll have a set of finished bed logs to look at. So this is the setup. I'm using the table saw as a flat surface, and I'm using the two bed logs as one's supporting. They're both being used to support the track while one is being cut. So the first cut, it's a little bit closer. It's almost an inch. It's a little bit more than I wanted to go with, but it should be okay. I forget what size blade I have here, but it's probably a 40 tooth. I'm not sure. Anyway, it just cut right through like nothing. That's what we're going to do. More later. Hopefully this works. First cut looks good, knock on wood. Touch wood, as they say in Europe. And so there we are, cut number 2. There we are. And it's a little shy of 7 3/4. So, okay, we'll see what happens from here. Anyway, one step closer. I love this track saw. So, this is a video about bed logs and my epic failure. My epic fail. These are the two bed logs. And as you can probably tell, this one is cut too close. In fact, this one's cut too close too. So, when I cut these on the bandsaw, it's been trimmed since then, but when I cut them on the bandsaw, this side was down and it's not square, and I cut it too close to the line, so the other side is okay, but this side is not. So I've got them clamped together with a thin piece of shim stock, which, a couple things. One, they're decidedly not flat, but not terrible. Since I cut this on a track saw, these edges are flat, but they're not, the depths change slightly relative to these surfaces. The other problem is that this surface is not perpendicular to this surface in here. Bottom line, this is, so I've cut the back end. Oh yes, so here are the pieces that I cut out, which I'm just putting back in for support. When I put the mold on there, the pattern. And so there's this. Hard to do with it. One hand. And we're a little proud here. A little proud here. And a little shy right through here. Again, this is not. And then okay through here. So this one's okay. It's a little that's not quite square yet, But this side is a mess. Anyway, starting again, here I've got the mold clamped down. We're a little proud here, so I can take some more off there. And there it's even, and then it dips in here until about here. So, and the other side is close, but by cutting too close to the line and not being square, I cut off too much material. So now I have a choice. Either I flatten this out and glue a piece of G-Flex epoxy, say a thin piece of wood here or something like this. I've got several pieces to choose from. This way, and then clean it up that way, or we start over. Now, there is another piece of interesting information here, so nothing to do with my horrid mistake. Here's another view where you can clearly see that it is. I've planed this to try to take off some of the rough stuff to get an idea of how deep we are. As I said, it's proud here. So, I was concerned about this wood anyway, but I think I finally decided it was good enough. I'm not sure that's true anymore, but we also have an issue with this stuff right here. This is rot, and there's some right here, and I think maybe some here, and I'm seeing some here as well. And I mean, this was so inside the wood, I'm going to at least have to cut this out, and it's so close to this edge. And this is also the edge that is going to be exposed to water. So, despite this thing, which is my fault and a complete catastrophe, so I've been looking at Dutchman. So, in a sense, I could take and put a trim cut here and here, and just lay a piece in, flatten this out, lay a piece of oak in, and G-flex it in, which won't go anywhere. My concern is this here and here is where 1/4 inch bronze bolts, or threaded rod in my case, are going to go through, and so we're nice and thick. This piece right here is where it's going to go through, and that's nice and thick. But if I've got rot in here, that just might be a rationalization for doing this over again. Beyond my own mistakes, I'm beginning to feel that this piece of lumber was less than exemplary. So I may have to go out and actually cough up the money for a piece of quarter sawn, 10 or 12 quarters. And that's what I'm going to do now. As I said, this is okay. This needs a little bit of flattening here. But and I suspect when I put the keel on this, no matter what I do, there's going to be some trimming, because you want that keel joint to be as perfect as you can get it. And they're going to be slathering 5200 in there. You don't want, you want it to be as tight a joint as possible. So, I was very pleased with myself. I'll say one thing, I didn't lose it completely when I realized what I had done. Because I cut this one first, and I said, oh crap, I got to deal with this. And then I cut this one out, and I did a better job cutting this one out, and you know, I've got a good process down. And frankly, this is probably one of the most complicated pieces that I'm going to end up doing. A famous last words. I haven't done the stem yet. The boat will still get built, but this is the setback. And it's unfortunate. But we press on. So here are the boards. This one's not too bad. It's got a little bit of work that needs to be done onto it. I did kind of mess up the end, but I'll trim off most of that. The bigger issue is this board. Now, this is the one which I screwed up by cutting this too close. But the more I look at this, this area here and this, it's all on the verge of rotting. Plus, just since I've started, some checks are forming already, just since I cut it yesterday. I am not happy with these pieces of wood. I have a call into several places, including New England Naval Timbers. And we'll, a couple places have told me just you can't get quarter sawn 10-quarter white oak. You just can't find it. So I may have to drive to Connecticut. But I just don't like the idea of gluing this stuff up. If I was going to glue this up, I'd just punch some holes in this and put some get rod in here or something, or get another piece of this slab sawn white oak. But I'm not happy with this. So this is definitely my problem, my fault. I mean, if I hadn't have done this, I might have been able to live with this. But the more I look at this, the less inclined I am to put this in the boat. It's really too bad. Anyway, more later. I'll take a picture of this thing when I get it put together. TTFN.